Baseball family, welcome to your source for the 2022 MLB playoffs with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Briggy Blue Eyes. Thank you for joining us live as we watch history in the making. And now, baseball together.
Welcome, baseball family, to this week's episode of the Baseball Together podcast. This is a special World Series edition. I am Brad, and I am joined by our guy on my left, Brig. Welcome, Brig. How are you this fine evening?
Chilly. Otherwise, I'm really good.
Yeah, a little chilly. A little chilly. It's like somebody blew some cold air through here, and I am not a huge fan of it. Yeah, it's a little chilly over on this side of the country as well. Yep. So those of you who have been following along with us during the World Series, spoilers, we're not live tonight for those watching later, everything, because we wanted to go trick-or-treating with kids. So we're doing that, and we wanted you to be able to do that as well, or watch Game 3, whichever you choose. Anywho, pre-recorded episode coming at you. Brig, we got so much to talk about. I feel like the current events and the news have been relatively slow during the postseason, which is nice.
Until now.
Right? You don't want an A-Rod situation, especially in the World Series, but stuff has picked up this week.
That's right.
Here we go. The Kansas City Royals have hired their new manager, Matt Quatraro. Is that how you say that? Quatraro?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So he's their new manager. He was the longtime bench coach with the Tampa Bay Rays. And Jeff Passan, who I see as an authority for all things Major League Baseball, says this is a great hire. And one of the reasons is because the players love him. They absolutely love this guy.
That's all I ever hear, is that he's beloved, honestly. And not just like loved and trusted and so many other things. But yeah, this is going to be a great thing, especially with all the young talent that they have over in Kansas City. Hopefully he'll be able to, bring some of his youth into it as well. It'll be great. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it'll be good. I think it'll be a good fit for him. And did the Royals disappoint you at all this year, Brig? Or, I mean, I know we weren't expecting them to be like great, but I think we were expecting some of that youth to infuse some enthusiasm, some energy into that lineup, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think my biggest thing was when Bobby Witt Jr. moved over.
Uh-huh.
I was like, what? Why? Well, stop. And then that was it. Yeah.
It was an interesting year for the Royals. Looking forward to. I hope that this works out for them. I'd like to see them get back to the top of the AL Central. Relatively weak division, so it could happen. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Now let's go over to the World Series real quick. There was some interesting happenings the other day within Game 1. Major League Baseball stopped Martin Maldanado from using illegal bats that were gifted to him by Albert Pujols. What?
So if you've seen this headline and reacted to it the way I did, you had all these rut-row thoughts and feelings about cheating and
especially with the way Pujols hit the second half of the season. I was like,
right.
Yeah, I heard that it was illegal, and I was like,
Yeah. It was really uncomfortable. Here's what's going on. In 2010, Major League Baseball improved, they're saying, but tightened up the standards on maple baseball bats just across the board. They said, here are the new standards. Players using old bats that didn't meet those qualifications were grandfathered in and allowed to continue using the old standard bat. However, anybody who came into the league 2010 or later and was using that bat or was swinging maple needed to have the new standards. And so manufacturers got all the memos and everything like that. The point is, Pujols gave Martin Maldanado 6 of these bats to use during the World Series. And he used it in Game 1. And Major League Baseball caught on, somehow found out, and said, hey, you have to knock it off. You can't do that. Because Maldonado came into the league, I think in 2011, which means he was not grandfathered in, and he's not allowed to use those old bats. But Albert Pujols still could. Now, here's the burning question we're all wondering, is what does illegal mean? Basically, the league is stressing heavily that this is a safety issue and not a competitive issue. This is not a performance issue. This has nothing to do with pop or the bat's handling in any way.
Were corked.
Right. It's ultimately only a safety issue. That's what the league wants you to believe. However, my belief is if it's a safety issue and there's an issue on the field that could make it not safe, and you say we have to stop making it unsafe, then you can't onesie-twosie make it unsafe when you think it's okay. You have to make it either stays unsafe for everybody or it's instantly safe for everybody. The end.
Right. Yeah. I think that makes perfect sense.
If there's no competitive issue, why are you grandfathering people in?
Yeah. And I can kind of see, like, it would make sense to me if Major League Baseball was like, okay, we understand you like this bat, but we're deeming it unsafe. We'd like to phase it out of the league. And the other thing too is, like, the average career of a major leaguer is so short that I'm sure that they were like, these guys will be out of the league in 2 years. We don't have to worry about these bats anymore. But then you've got the unicorn off to the side with Albert Pujols 50 years later still using this bat, right? That they've decided to get rid of. Yeah. And then it pops up in the World Series 12 years later.
Right.
That's like, it's so random. But yeah, Major League Baseball 7 years ago should have been like, okay, Albert, it's time for you to change your bat. Maybe it'll help things in Anaheim. We don't know.
Yeah.
But no, it's
good point.
I don't know. I feel like Major League Baseball is so, like, halfway on so many things. Like, safety here, right? With this, like, it's a safety issue, but you're fine, Albert Pujols. I don't know. That's a weird thing. But the other thing that I feel like they've only gone halfway with is the pitcher checks, right? Like, there's a whole thing with Framber Valdez. He was, like, rubbing his and so he's left-handed. He's rubbing his right hand, and a lot of people are like, oh, he's got a substance there. It's like, okay, well, if he does, first off, the Phillies said they weren't concerned about it.
Valdez that's a very important detail,
right? I feel like that's a really important detail, that if the Phillies said they weren't worried about it, we shouldn't be worried about it, right? Because we don't want to make this a bigger deal than it is. Right. But Major League Baseball has made such a big deal out of the pitcher checks, but at the same time, they're doing them after the inning. Because the pitcher, we saw with Valdez doing this, he's rubbing his hand on his shirt. Like, that's so easy to do that I don't think Major League Baseball is taking any of this seriously. It's all just visual, right? Just to appease the fans. Yeah, optics. Because if you really wanted to crack down on pitchers, you check them as they're coming out of the dugout. Because that's when they're going to spider tack up or whatever, is when they're in the dugout. And rather than giving them an entire inning of using it and then wiping it off on their pants or getting dirt on it. So I don't know. It's weird. It's all weird and it's all inconsistent. It's Rob Manfred making it up as he goes.
The poor guy's just a figurehead, though, right?
I know he is. I know.
He's the messenger.
He is. Well, we all know what happened in Titus Andronicus to the messenger. So anyway.
Right. Okay.
Everybody knows Brig. Everybody knows what happened to Messenger.
Everybody.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to Nolan Arenado. He wants to stay in St. Louis. He opted in for the rest of his contract. 5 years, $144 million. And I don't think anybody's going to turn that down, especially in St. Louis, because, like, Jim Edmonds told us they have established an outstanding culture there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, guys love it in St. Louis.
Right.
So of course he's going to stick around, and of course he's not going to turn down that kind of guaranteed money. So I don't blame him. I think it's great for St. Louis, though. Absolutely outstanding for them.
Wonderful. And it's great for Arenado. It's great for the fan base. That's what I care about.
Yeah, it is great for the fan base because I bought my first Mariners jersey that wasn't a Griffey jersey this year.
Yeah.
Because Julio Rodriguez is going to be there for the rest of his life and possibly mine.
Right.
So I was like, I didn't buy any shirts or jerseys with names on the back of them for a long time because I was like, that guy could be gone tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
right. And so having Nolan Arenado, knowing he's going to be there for at least another 5 years, is awesome for the fans. It's a big deal.
I do the same thing. I buy Lou Gehrig and Derek Jeter jerseys. That's it. When I buy Yankees
don't even have names on the back of them.
Exactly. That's it. That's all I buy. But whatever.
Yeah. So good for St. Louis. And they're strong at the corners for years, by the way. Goldschmidt over at first base.
Yeah.
They're set. They're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to Rob Manfred just for a couple minutes here, because this is really, really interesting. Because I think this is pretty layered. Rob Manfred confirmed that he is no longer optimistic about the Athletics remaining in Oakland. He also commented on the Tampa Bay Rays situation, says he feels completely differently. He thinks that they are going to get a stadium agreement. They're going to get a deal, and they're going to build a stadium in Tampa. Now, for a little while there, it seemed like the A's, it looked like they were going to get a stadium in Oakland, right? Yeah. But now he's saying, I just don't think so. And I feel like that he's in on the ruse, right? He wants them to stay in Oakland. He wants them there. David Sampson told us about that it's better for the league and expansion fees for teams to stay put.
Totally.
So he wants them to stay in Oakland.
Yeah.
He is part of the ruse to get this stadium deal done in Oakland. And of course he would be. Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah. No doubt.
So that's what I feel like this is.
I think it's interesting because it's all politics. Because if you look on the other side, you can find articles and information, and people are writing on both sides of the argument with as much confidence about a deal being done in Vegas or a deal being done in Oakland. And it seems like the whole world is teetering between those two. There's not really a split in a third direction at all. It's being driven in either direction right now between Oakland and Las Vegas. What I find really interesting is that nobody freaking knows. Because you can find whatever you want on this topic. It's like arguing that heads are better than tails on a penny. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So we actually have a friend, Jesse, who works for a minor league baseball team in the A's system. Yeah. And so when he got there, I asked him, so what's the chatter? What's going on with the team when they move to Vegas? He's like, they don't think that they are. He's like, nobody here thinks they're moving to Vegas. I think otherwise, but it's interesting that organizationally they are set top to bottom on that team sticking in Oakland.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So,
and that could be but you could push that with a memo. Right.
Yeah, you could.
I don't think
you hear rumors we are not going to Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Just push it out over the PA. Yeah. I don't know that I trust. Yeah, as you were is exactly right. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm not sure.
I'm excited about it though, because it's drama and I like drama. So
it's true. It's like Jim told us in one of our newspaper writing classes. I can't remember which one it was. Joe walks to and from work every day. It's not interesting. Joe gets mugged on Thursday. That's interesting.
Yeah.
This is Joe getting mugged. This is really interesting stuff.
That's right. And it's too really bad, but it is really interesting.
It is. Yeah, definitely. All right. Brig wants to tell us about Aaron Judge for either 1 or 5 minutes. I don't know, but we're going to give Brig the stage and let him talk about Aaron Judge for a minute. A little bit.
Thanks,
of time.
Man. I'm going to be really brief about this because a couple things happened that I think are really interesting. We talked about Nestor Cortez taking the opportunity to name Aaron Judge as the captain, sort of in advance. Rizzo has come out and said that, he and everybody else expects Aaron Judge to stay in pinstripes in New York and be there and be the guy. And he also has now asserted that he'd be the captain. And it would be a shame if during the press conference he doesn't get a bag of money and he isn't named captain all at the same time. Anthony Rizzo believes that is what should happen in that order, all in one shot. I think that's really interesting. But then I was reading some articles and listening to some stuff. And the Starting Nine podcast, which is a really interesting podcast, had Jake Arrieta on the show. And Jake Arrieta said that he says the fact that they booed, I'm quoting Jake Arrieta. He said the fact that they booed Aaron Judge, if I'm him, I'd send them to some place that we're not going to say and say, I'm not coming back here. if you want to boo me after what I just did for you guys, I'm going to the Mets. He says you don't have to boo the guy. You cheer for him when he's in trouble. Help boost him up a little bit. He's like, cut it out, man. I'm paraphrasing now, but he says, if I'm Judge, I sign somewhere else.
Well, and that was kind of the narrative that came out this week, too, is that the players are fed up with the Yankees fans.
There's a lot going on with the Yankees fans being toxic and that driving people away. The players specifically. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I'm sure there have been many players over the last couple of years who are like, I mean, Ohtani, he eliminated the Yankees early because he didn't want to play there.
Right. Well, you saw what happened to Sonny Gray. He was rocket fire in Cincinnati. Like, unbelievable. Was it in Cincinnati? No, it was in Oakland.
So he was in Oakland. He was in Oakland. Then he went to New York, and now he's back to being great. Well, he was back to being great in Cincinnati. Now he's still great in Minnesota.
That's right. That's exactly right. But he was chewed up and spit out in New York, and that was before any of us Yankees fans realized that maybe we're part of the problem or anything like that. So I'm taking some time to be as introspective as possible. It's funny because a lot of Yankees fans are also coming out and saying like get over yourself. If you can't handle it, then you don't belong. And I think that there's some real interesting, valid arguments there too. I don't know what the right answer is.
It is tough. It is tough because like, I don't want to be the guy who's like, you have to support your players through thick and thin, even though like you kind of do, you know? And I do understand though, like if the product on the field is not up to snuff, there are two things you can do. You can let them know by booing,
right? Or
you can not show up.
Both of which are negative reinforcement.
Right. So at what point is not showing up more effective than booing? Because booing is just your vocal displeasure. And the owner's still like with his $100 bills, oh no, they're booing my players. But if you're not there, then he doesn't have as many $100 bills to wipe his tears with.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be more effective than booing the players. And I get it. You're there and you're frustrated with everything. But at the same time, though, like Aaron Judge, you're going to boo Aaron Judge?
Right. And
this is where my problem here.
Right. And this is where my introspection has come. I never booed Aaron Judge. I know it sounds like I'm just falling on my sword here, but I'm not. I've never booed Aaron Judge. Let me officially fall on my sword and say that I have booed other Yankees in the past. Most notably Tyler Clippard, whose name we almost never mention in my house. Like that's one of the things that we don't do. Can't stand what he did in New York, and specifically in 2016. I'm still hurting. But so I was booing him from my chair and very happy about it. No chagrin whatsoever, no guilt now. But the Aaron Judge thing is intense. It needs to be, I mean, at this point, the entire Yankee fandom, the royal we, have to do something to check ourselves. At least a little bit. Not a lot. You want to boo Aaron Hicks? Boo Aaron Hicks. Nobody cares, right? But Judge is a demigod out there, and we want him to be a demigod, and we want him to live on in perpetuity and have memories of him having been a demigod, the way we do with Jeter and the way we still do with Gehrig and the way we do with Ruth and Mantle and Maris, especially this year. Like, that's what we want for Aaron Judge. We need to treat him like that. Because there's a quote that I love, that if you treat a man as he is, he will remain as he is. And if you treat a man as he ought to and should be, he will become as he ought to and should be.
There you go. I have nothing else to add. That's a great way to end, Brig.
Thanks,
fantastic.
Man.
I like it a lot. Right. Okay. Well, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to recap some of the World Series. We'll start with Game 2, and then we'll get into we'll start with Game 1. We'll get into Game 2 and give you a little bit of preview for Game 3.
No matter which ballpark you're at, you want to rep your team. Now you can with 9+ Us. Welcome to the Big City Series. With every design available in your team's colors, you can fit in with the home crowd or stand out on the road. Either way, we have the colors you crave. Shop the Big City Series and find designs that rep your favorite baseball podcast, cheer from the cheap seats, and much more. Shop the Big City Series only at 9plusus.com.
All right, baseball family, welcome back. Let's talk about the World Series because it has been a wild ride, honestly. Game 1 especially was incredible. I was losing it. I was yelling and screaming and doing all the things, and luckily from where I watch the games, my kid is protected from me, which is, I think, important for her future therapy appointments. Anyway,
well, on Baseball Family, if you didn't catch it on YouTube or on TikTok, Brig said if you did not watch Game 1, you were wrong, and he is absolutely right about that. Everybody should have watched Game 1. If you haven't watched it yet, go back and see if you can find a replay, because I mean, even if you watch like the last 3 innings, 8th, 9th, and 10th, maybe the 7th, 8th, 9th.
You got to start on 7th. Yeah, I'd start the 7th inning.
Yeah, then,
it was unbelievable,
unreal, absolutely
it was
amazing,
so good. So first of all, let me say that I wrote them off in Game 1. As soon as I was halfway to writing them off when it was 2-0, and then by the time it was 5-0, I was done.
Yeah,
and I was
I was too.
I was putting in the work just because I was going through the motions, watching the game. But I sat back thinking, no way. Okay, whatever. We saw this coming. This is entirely what I thought would happen. And then, boom! They get through the 5th inning. Verlander got roughed up. And I don't even know how to describe it. He allowed 5 runs across 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 walks, and only recorded 5 strikeouts. 5 strikeouts in his 5 innings. I was shocked. I shouldn't have been shocked, though, because what I'm noticing and what Brad is noticing and what the whole world is noticing is that this is what Justin Verlander does in the World Series. And it is besmirching his Hall of Fame hopes and dreams. It is. I don't think it'll preclude him from getting in, but I think it is making it harder.
So this is the thing. This is the thing, is that, like, if anybody wants to talk down on Clayton Kershaw about his performances in the postseason, Justin Verlander absolutely has to be included in that conversation. If anybody anywhere is going to be like, well, Clayton Kershaw kind of a choker in the playoffs, well, you got to include Justin Verlander, because let's look at this real quick. In this year alone in the postseason, so that was his 3rd appearance, because the Astros have played like next to no games in the postseason this year because they haven't had to. But so the first game against the Mariners, his offense bailed him out, to be honest with you. He went 4 innings, gave up 10 hits, 6 runs, walked 1, struck out 3 was all, and gave up a home run. Okay, it was a hit parade against Seattle. But then he goes into New York and he redeems himself, goes 6 innings, strong innings, 3 hits, 1 run, struck out 11, gave up 1 home run and hit a batter. But then he comes into the World Series, and like Briggs said, 5 innings, 6 hits, 5 runs, 5 strikeouts is all during that time, 2 walks. Like, he's pounding the zone like he does, but he's not overbearing against these good teams.
I don't know what's up. Yeah. Well, and he gave up 3. So the Phillies come back from a 5-0 deficit, and it all started in the 4th. It took to the 4th inning for them to score.
Yeah.
And they scored 3 of those 5 runs that they came back from. And then in the 4th, and then in the 5th, they scored the other 2. And then we were deadlocked all the way through the 9th inning. Through the 9th inning, the World Series went into extra innings Game 1.
Well, and it wouldn't have gone into extra innings if Nick Castellanos hadn't made that sliding catch.
Bro, the whole game was full of incredible defensive plays, especially by Philly.
Yeah.
Like, those dudes, their defensive game was so dialed in all day, and nobody expected Nick Castellanos to be the guy to make a heroic play. It's like, what? It was so dirt to dirt from Castellanos. Like, I just sat there like this, like, oh no, oh no. They had runners in scoring position.
Yeah, Altuve on second base. Sure.
Yep. Man, and then he dove and slid and caught it, and I'm still excited.
So they asked him about that after the game. Said, did you think you would be able to make that catch? And he's like, sometimes during the season, I thought this was really interesting. It says, sometimes during the season, it gets hard to stay focused and pay attention out there. He's like, but you get to the postseason, you don't have a choice. You have to stay focused and pay attention for every single pitch, because you could have a situation like that. And I was like, man, that's really interesting hearing that from a big leaguer. I'm like, Wilson had a game that night, and he's out in center field, and I'm yelling at him, trying to get him to pay attention. I'm like, even the big leaguers have a hard time paying attention in the outfield. They had no idea. I just thought everybody was like laser focused because they were professionals, right? But I'm not laser focused at my job all day.
I feel like part of the key to being a professional is knowing when you don't have to be laser focused.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I think you're right.
But then there's the video of Altuve during the pre-pitches, like throwing his glove up and down and spinning it around and just horsing around. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you know when to be on and you know when to be off. And I think that's
right. So you would think that when the ball is being pitched, he's laser focused and let himself relax between innings or whatever. But I don't know. Maybe he's got a little bit of ADHD out there.
Don't we all?
I think we all do.
It's got to be the garden hoses. Anyway.
You're right.
Something.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
So let's move on to extra innings real quick because JT Realmuto hit an extra inning home run. This is the first time a catcher has hit a go-ahead home run in extra innings in the World Series with the roof closed on grass ever in the history of baseball, by the way.
The first time.
That's amazing.
Roof closed.
Yeah, with the roof closed. But it's the first time a catcher has hit a go-ahead home run in extra innings in the World Series since Carlton Fisk. You know that one in 1975 in Game 6. The one where he's waving it fair. Yeah, that one.
That's unbelievable.
I came up with that stat just now, Brig.
I loved it.
Got very excited about that.
I'm still trying not to laugh out loud. I don't know. Can't keep it together tonight.
So the Phillies took Game 1. They took home field. Like, that's the biggest thing for me is, like, when you're going in as the visiting team, like, if you can get Game 1, heck yes, you've got the job done. Game 2 is gravy at that point because you've got home field going home.
For 3 games.
And that's a huge deal. I hate the 2-3-2 format, but in this case, I'm like, go Phils.
Yeah, but no, here you are. Here you are telling us that home field advantage doesn't matter, and you're so against it, and you're such a poopy pants about it.
It does, but man.
And now you're like, oh baby, and now they get to go home. It's so exciting.
I'm nothing if not inconsistent, Brig. Especially when it comes to
you don't mess
advantage.
with tradition, Brad. You just don't.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
You are as God made you.
I am what I am, and that's all that I am. But let's go on and talk about Game 2 real quick.
All right.
So Framber Valdez, by the way, holy smokes, that dude was dominant. Like, unreal. Absolutely just mowed everybody down. He went 6 1/3, gave up 4 hits was all, 1 run, 3 walks was all, struck out 9. So this was another quality start from him. He had 25 in a row this year. That's a record. And for those of you who don't know what a quality start is, it is an actual thing that is measured by at least 6 innings and allowing just 3 runs or fewer during that start. And Valdez, that's what he does. That is what he does. He keeps the opponents off the board. So I don't know if I expected the Phillies to win that one or show the way they did against Verlander, because I was never waiting for them. I wasn't waiting for them to have that breakout inning like they did against Verlander.
No.
Right? Like the way that he was dealing and the way that he works, Valdez works, is like this is the Astros game for sure. I was thinking maybe once they got to the bullpen, but that was the only shot they had.
Okay, and I got to bring that up. That's a great point because their bullpen's amazing, right? We've talked about that forever. And that's where they broke down in Game 2, which is more to the point that Houston's not infallible. And we saw that in Game 1, but then Phillies fans saw that there's a way to exploit Houston's offense or defense at the bullpen level. And I was not sure that was possible. And here we go.
So that bullpen for Houston, though, like they still only gave up in just a couple innings. Like Rafael Montero went 1 2/3. Ryan Presley came in and pitched an inning. They still only gave up 2 hits. They struck out 2. They walked 1. But I don't know. It's really interesting because it felt like the Phillies had more of a chance against the bullpen. And I don't know if it's because they weren't striking him out at the same rate that Valdez was. So it's like they're putting him in play. Like I think it was Alec Boehm it was Gene Segura. Gene Segura had a ball out to left field that was literally like 5 feet towards center of the Crawford boxes. Oh. It's like if that ball is pulled just a touch more, it's off the wall for a double and a run scores. Instead, it was an out. Right. Instead, it was just a loud out.
Yeah.
And the runner doesn't advance. So I don't know. It's crazy though the way that they're able to get those outs, and like I said, bend and not break, because that's what bullpens are supposed to do.
It's true.
So that's been like the biggest thing, because they only gave up 1 run in game 1. Granted, it was a big deal.
Yeah,
but only 1.
Right. But that's why I think it's even more significant that the Phillies were able to punch holes in the bullpen in game 2 at all.
Right, because you get to a certain point, you're putting the ball in play enough, I feel like eventually it's going to break through.
Yeah.
Right, and especially at home, like, I don't know, like that might still be a routine fly ball at the Phillies ballpark. That might be close. I don't know. That might be off the wall. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly the dimensions comparing the two, but it feels like eventually they're going to break through with those. If they can just keep putting the ball in play, that's what's going to get them.
Which is what we keep saying. The occasional home run to capitalize on all of the fundamental small ball that gets you through. And that's what happened in game 1. Tons and tons and tons of small ball.
Right.
And then the game-winning home run.
Well, and back-to-back doubles helped the Astros in game 2.
Exactly.
So,
but they were actually putting together quality at-bats with contact and putting the ball in play, which is what they were unable to do largely during game 1 and most of the season, to be honest with you.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah, that's what we talked about before. Yeah, I actually thought it was interesting that they hit that many doubles in a row to score that many runs in the first inning. Yeah. Tell us about Pat Hoberg, though, Brig. I mean, I'm sure like a lot of people probably saw this across social media, because this is a really big deal.
It's
a huge
big deal
here.
They're saying, and I didn't back this up all the way, but this is the only the second time that a World Series umpire has called a perfect game. Now, a perfect game in umpire terms is obviously different than it is for a pitcher, but this is what it looks like for those of you watching on YouTube. All of the take calls, all of the balls that the batters didn't swing at were called balls. He has a 100% overall accuracy for pitches taken outside the zone. It's unbelievable. His overall consistency was 96%. That means a couple of called strike accuracy was missed. But look at the impact.
Well, so his called strike accuracy was 100%, but the consistency, I don't know how you can have an overall consistency of 96%.
Yeah. Actually, that's
still
true.
Be 100%. That doesn't, like, I saw that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't know if it's because of that top section where it's white in the zone.
Yeah.
And that could be just that there were no balls thrown there. There were 0 pitches in that area. So he didn't have any to call. Right? That's because there are certain spots, like you look at a batter's heat map, there are certain spots where guys aren't going to throw. And like you don't, if you're throwing a fastball up on a guy, you want it to be in, because it's too hard to get in on that. And so I wonder if there just wasn't any fastballs thrown up and in on left-handed batters. Everything was up and in on right-handed batters.
Yeah, that is what it looks like.
So, and I wonder if that's why it was 96% consistency, because if he had filled in that whole thing red, if there had been pitchers up there and he got those right too, I think he would probably be up to 100% on that. But 96, I'll take that. The important part is the 100% accuracy on called strikes, 100% accuracy on called balls. And I'm sure, I assure you, Brig, there were times that people looked even on TV and thought, that does not look like a ball, or that does not look like a strike. And that's what it's going to be like when they're robo umps. It doesn't always look like a strike, even though it is.
Well, we've heard from Phillies fans that say no way. Still don't believe it. And, who knows? But this is umpire scorecards. We've been referencing them all season. We're going to continue to because we love the work that they do. And it jives with what we see 9 times out of 10. So out of 89 called balls, they were true balls. And out of 40 called strikes, they were all strikes instead of being balls. It was great. I mean, it's awesome.
That's why Pat Hoberg is on this umpire crew too.
Right. Congratulations to Pat, and thanks for doing a great job. Yep. The end.
Yep.
Let's take a break.
Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll take a break when we get back. Let's do a quick preview of Game 3.
The Not Another Sports Podcast is the home of sports talk for everyone. Every other week, you can catch David and Jason as they talk about all things sports, from current events to classic moments and everything in between. You can find the Not Another Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and more. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Welcome back, baseball family. Okay, let's go ahead and get into Game 3. Game 3 is Monday night, Halloween. I think that's super cool. I don't know why I like sporting events on Halloween. I think it's fun. I've always wanted to go to one, but I haven't had a chance to. Maybe one of these days I'll go to an NBA game or something here in town on Halloween. But anyway, before we get into that, let's do this real quick, Brig. If you have not jumped onto SchnookSeedery.com yet, head over to SchnookSeedery.com and get the best seeds ever. You can use code BTPOD to save 10%. Help the show, help yourself, help Schnook Seedery. We love them. We think you will too. That's why we have the logo there in the middle of our screen. Okay, let's get into Game 3. We have an interesting pitching matchup. Okay, Lance McCullers is going for Houston. Lance McCullers has had a great season. Just been awesome. He's been really well this postseason. He's done really well this postseason. He went against the Mariners in Game 3 in that marathon game that ended up being 2. He pitched 6 innings, gave up 2 hits, was all walked 2, struck out 7. It was a big part of the reason that game went as long as it did because he was not given an inch to that Seattle offense. And then against the Yankees, he went in, let's see, what was this? It was Game 4. The final game of that series, he went 5 innings, gave up 8 hits, 4 runs, 3 of those earned, walked just 1, and struck out 6. He hit 1 batter. So not as strong of an outing. I think he probably gave Yankees fans a little bit of hope there, Brig.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in Philly because he was on the road with his other 2 starts. So I don't know which McCullers are we going to get? The one who dominated the Mariners all year and then continued to shut them down in the postseason, or the one who gave an inch to the Yankees?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting. He's only pitched 47 2/3 innings all season long.
Yeah, he was injured for a while.
Yeah. So, but we've seen that can be really beneficial for a guy in this late in the season, coming in and warming into his stride this late. So I think that's really interesting. He has an earned run average of 2.27 throughout those 8 games that he's played in this season, and that's pretty good. Small sample size.
That's pretty good.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Lance McCullers honestly is a really good pitcher. I would be as a Phillies fan, I would be nervous for him, especially going up against Noah Syndergaard, who is kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum these days.
Pretty shaky. I was really surprised that they named him the starter.
I am too, and this is why. So he finished the game, Game 2 against the Braves. He just went 1 inning, allowed 1 walk, struck out 1, and it was a loss 3-0. So he didn't. I guess he didn't really. He did his job by going out there and not giving up runs, right? Mm-hmm. But it was only 1 inning, and then he did play in. He pitched in Game 4 of that same series. He went 3 innings, gave up 1 run on 1 hit. It was a home run, but he did strike out 3. So he showed there that he could give a few innings to you.
Yeah.
If you need him. He started that one, and then he came in and got a hold against the Padres. He went 1 1/3 and just allowed 2 hits. Nobody scored, didn't strike anybody out. Not flashy, anything, but he got the job done. So I think that their plan here has to be to give him a quick hook, right?
This is going to be an opener. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's
that's how I feel.
An opener, which is weird to do in the World Series.
Yeah, I agree. So I was looking at his regular season numbers, similar to McCullers. He's had 10 games. He's only pitched 54 2/3 innings all season. Yeah. That's a very similar situation. The problem is his ERA throughout the season is 4.12.
Right.
So that's getting close to double what it is at Lance McCullers level. And that's bad news bears all the way around. So
I think that's the technical term.
It is. In the baseball world, it is. Walter Matthau taught me that. The thing I want to know from you, Brad, is not Billy Bob Thornton, you youngins. Anyway, get off my lawn. Okay, so I want to know from you, Brad, how many innings are we going to get out of Noah Syndergaard?
Honestly, I could see. I think they'll be asking him to go 3.
Right, but what are we going to? I think they're going to ask him to go 3. But what are we going to get?
I think we get 2 1/3 out of Noah Syndergaard. So he's going to give up a couple hits in the beginning of the game, that first inning, right? Yeah. And they may not score. The Astros might not bring anybody around. But I think when you get toward the middle of the lineup, there's going to be some information shared, like guys do, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's his curveball look like up there? What's his fastball doing today? Stuff like that is going to work its way down the bench. That second inning, guys are going to come in and they're going to know what to do with it. I think he gives up 3 runs and they pull him just to stop the bleeding. But the Phillies bullpen has been money. Absolute money.
Right.
They haven't given up a run.
Got to get him as close as possible to letting those guys really take over. And the encouraging thing for Phillies fans will be the fact that their defense has been just stellar the last couple of games. Like, it truly has been very impressive. And baseball family, I know it sounds a lot like we're saying, if we were Philly, here's how we'd win, right? And part of that is because we feel that way personally. We want Philly to win. We think the Houston's going to win, though. And so let me just make it super clear that the only reason we're talking about all these Philly details is because we don't think they stand a chance in the long run.
Right.
So it's fun for us to...
Brig, you said 5, I said 6.
Yeah, it's fun for us to war game this because otherwise, if there's no magic, then Houston's going to steamroll anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. It just happens to be Philly.
Because they're that good.
So they've been
that good the entire year. Well, most of the year. I mean, they started slow, but once they figured it out, they're steamrolling everybody, like you said.
So I don't think it's barely even interesting for us to say, well, should they work their lineup a little differently? No, Dusty Baker's not going to change his lineup. He's made that very clear. Well, who are they going to bring in to pitch? Who's going to start? Whatever. It's been the same the whole time. This Lance McCullers thing is the only thing that's even interesting to talk about because it's a little shaky. Like, why are we bringing? He's been injured all year. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? But I have seen almost nothing from Dusty Baker to question anything that he does. So ultimately, that's why we spend a lot of time discussing what Philly might do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because Houston has their lineup. The only thing that's going to make it, like, I don't want to jinx anybody, but the thing that would make this series the most interesting is if one Astros player, no matter who it is, got hurt. That's what would make this way more interesting.
I hope that doesn't happen.
But I don't want it to happen because I want, like, if Philly were to come back and win this thing, like bounce back from the Game 2 loss and come and win this thing, I know that Phillies fans would want to say that they beat a full-strength Astros team.
Yeah.
Because 100%. Then forever, every time you come across an Astros fan, well, yeah, but so-and-so got hurt.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens all the time.
No. Right. Nobody wants that.
Right.
I just don't. Yeah. I don't even like talking about that kind of stuff. It makes me get the heebie-jeebies. And it's too close to Halloween, Brad. Stop it.
Trying to spook everybody out.
Yeah, well, it's working. All right. But we're not hating on Houston. I just want to make that super clear. We're not hating on Houston and loving on Philly. I mean, maybe we are, but that's not what I'm trying to say. I might be a little bit,
and I've made that clear, and that's a division rival thing. So
yeah, it's just less interesting because they're that good. they're just dominant, and when they're on, they're unbelievable.
That's right. That's like I used to listen to a bunch of different sports talk, and one guy was like, dynasties are interesting. People like dynasties. I'm like, no, dynasties are not interesting. Dynasties are boring. What's interesting is a 111 win Dodger team losing in the division series. That is interesting.
Drama,
because that's not what you expect to happen. A 100 plus win Astros team losing to the 6th seed Phillies team. That is interesting. That is a storyline that I'm like, yeah, eat that up. That's crazy good. And there are storylines with the Astros. We've talked about that before. Vindication, putting behind them 2017 finally. Like, that's a big deal. I feel like that's a really big deal for Astros and their fans.
Huge. I also, I was thinking about what we said the other day about the cheating and if they win and whatever. And I don't think it matters if they win or lose.
I don't think it matters either. I think
we got to put it behind us. Yeah, it needs to be done.
Yep. Put it to bed.
Anyway, I think Philly is going to lose game 1 at home. They're game 3, but their first game at home, I think they're going to lose.
I think so too, and just because that Syndergaard start is really interesting to me, and that's like the big concerning thing, right? Yeah. That this is not the Noah Syndergaard who was pitching for the Mets 2-3 years ago. I guess it's 3 years ago now. This is it's a different guy, and it's unfortunate because I loved watching Syndergaard pitch. Back when he was dominant, when it was him and DeGrom, but no, he's a different guy now. And having him start really concerns me that the Astros are going to be able to jump out big on him.
But Philly Rob has made few mistakes and few personnel mistakes, and it'll be interesting to see what he does. And you got to trust him just as much as we trust Dusty Baker.
That's right, because you had to send Wheeler out there. He's your ace. He's your guy, right? And it's just a really good offensive team jumped on him early. That's what happened in game 2. And then, like we talked about, Valdez shut everybody down because that's what he does.
Well, and Nola got beat up too.
Right. Nola did. Yeah.
Their 2 aces got roughed up.
Yeah. Yeah. And a team with this much offensive firepower, I feel like, is just a problem. They've been a problem for everybody, like we talked about, for all year long. But anyway. But baseball family, let us know what you think about the World Series. Are we like completely off base? Like, I'm sure that we're going to get Phillies fans who are just like, no, they can't lose game 3. And like, I'm sorry, but let us know what you think. You can let us know in the comments on YouTube. Hit us up on the TikTok machine. We're there. The comment section was active today. Thank you, Astros fans.
It really was.
But you can hit us up there.
It's kind of fun, actually.
On the short segments there where we post them. Anyway, let us know what you think about what we're doing, or you can send us an email in the mailbag. We're always willing to listen there as well. But reach out, let us know what you think about what we're doing. Brig, tell them about the shop real quick.
We have a shop with stuff on it. It's like t-shirts and hats and things, and it's pretty cool. So you can jump on there and buy stuff. That's really awesome. It helps us. It helps you. That's it, basically. But if you want a discount on the cool stuff that we have in the shop, you can go get it. We have a survey out that you can access, and we'll put the link in the show notes, and so you can jump in there and grab it, fill it out, and you get 20% off the shop. And you have a chance to get more than 20% off the shop as well. So fill it out, and you'll find out. But if you don't want to save money, that's fine. You can go to 9plusus.com, NINEPLUS US.com. That's at 9plusus.com, and buy yourself some baseball stuff. Especially before Christmas.
Yeah, right before Christmas. Excellent. Very good. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Like we said, let us know what you think about what we're doing. But subscribe, and then YouTube will send you notifications when we post stuff, because we're posting clips to the show all the time on YouTube, bite size, because we know that not everybody has time to sit down and listen to a 45-minute to an hour podcast. So it's all there for you. But baseball family, thank you so much again for joining us, and we will catch you after the World Series is over. Maybe a little bit sooner than that.